Hey guys, welcome back to Saints TV. Welcome back to Saints TV Weekly. November 7th, another week goes by. Probably the quietest week in a while, except later in the week we did get a bit of news, which was really exciting. So we'll start off with that. Another couple of appointments under Ross Lyon, his first official week as senior coach. Jeff Walsh's first official week as head of football as well. They hit the ground running. Some players were back training, as we've seen some footage of. There were some good photos there. Windy, Naz, all the youngsters. I think it was the first, second-year players potentially back. And then there were some good announcements. I think it was on the Thursday and the Friday. St Kilda football department was again bolstered. Some returning names again. Not some fresh faces, but some faces that we've known about over the years, particularly under Ross Lyon in 09 and 10. Brendon Goddard is one of them. He is back. He is joining as, a development coach, which is really exciting. And then you've got David Misson, who has joined as well, and he is basically going to be head of performance. So we've covered development, we've got performance. Obviously, we know the pedigree that Goddard brings in terms of his football ability, in terms of his passion, in terms of his drive on getting the best out of his teammates. Very similar to Rui in that way, so I'm kind of excited to see how he adapts that to the youngsters that he'll be teaching, because I think he's going to be mainly in charge of the 1st to 4-year players, whereas David Misson is going to be head of performance. He was head of performance and head of recovery in 09 and 10 when we made grand finals. He's worked with Melbourne. I think he's at the Sydney Roosters recently. He's been a big part of a lot of successful teams, and he knows how to put in a really hard-working program that will hopefully get the best out of our boys. I think he'll be working alongside Nick Walsh, who's head of performance and conditioning. So he'll cover a lot of those areas, as well as the physio and medical staff sides as well. So he'll be kind of overseeing all of that, which I think is really good. I rate Walsh. I think he's a great get, and he was, doing a really good job, particularly in the early stages of last season. Our fitness looked like it dropped off in the back end of the year, so I think that having someone as senior as David Misson coming in, someone that's been part of a lot of successful teams, is going to be really exciting. Then you've got Brendon Goddard, who, although hasn't been a coach at AFL level, he has done some coaching, and from all reports, it's been pretty good. So having him on board in a kind of a quieter capacity, so he's not going to be in charge of the midfield or anything, but just kind of, I guess more of a guide for some of the youngsters. And he's a former number 1 draft pick. He's had to deal with a lot of that sort of pressure. I think it'll be really exciting to see how he adapts to that position at the club, but to have him on board with Lenny, with Harvey, with Ross, maybe a few more to come, is really exciting news. So that's kind of the big news from last week. So great to have those two on board. To extend on that, to extend on the Ross Lyon train, Brett Peake came out late last week and talked about Ross Lyon, another one of his ex-players, to just give him a glowing endorsement in the capabilities of Ross and what he got out of Ross Lyon and how he rates him as a coach. And he had this to say. He said, "He's the greatest coach I've ever had. His football knowledge is second to none, just the way that he goes about it. Being coached by him for 2 years, he was just honest. He would say it how it was, and that's just how I've been brought up. I just loved everything about him. Going back to St Kilda, I would back them in to make finals next year. It's their 150th year. It's been a long time coming, but he's the best coach by far, and I just laugh because a lot of people mock him. There are other coaches out there who haven't been close to finals. I find it really staggering. Yes, he hasn't won a grand final, and every footy lover makes it very clear. He has taken St Kilda to 3, 09, and then 10 in the draw in the replay. And then Fremantle, he's doing something right. At the end of the day, it is the team that is going to win or lose on grand final day. He can only do everything in his power to get them there on the day. I really love having debates with people that don't know him, people that have no idea how he operates, what makes him tick. People can have their say. Keyboard warriors, they can say what they want, but a lot of people that make comments about people in that high sporting environment, a lot of them, unfortunately, are uneducated. So he was quite firm about it. He's really glowing about his endorsement, but also understands that The players have got to lift on grand final day, and that unfortunately didn't happen. Well, they lifted, but they didn't get the job done in 09 and 10. That's not entirely Ross's fault. So another glowing endorsement from an ex-Sainter. You'd like to think that pretty much every player that played in those grand finals in 09 and 10 rate Ross very, very highly. That was Brett Peake in the West Australian. There's more that he had to say on that. If you want to read about that, that's in the west.com.au sports section from last week. Now, a bit of draft news. There have been 10 AFL prospects that have been invited to the first round of the AFL draft. So this kind of gives you a bit more of an indication on who will, I guess, be most likely to be top 10. We kind of know the top 3 or 4. The one that kind of jumps out for us is Cam McKenzie, Sandringham Dragons, a teammate of Will Ashcroft, who's definitely going to go number 1 and get to the Brisbane Lions. I think he will possibly fall around 9 or 8. That's Cam McKenzie, and that's around what we've got. We've currently got pick 9, which should sit in the window that Cam McKenzie falls into. But the other one that a lot of people like is Matthias Philippou, Woodville, West Torrens. He's likely to go around the pick 9 and 10 mark. So it's going to be very interesting to see if McKenzie or Philippou have not been selected yet, who we decide to go with. Because from what I've watched, Philippou looks ready-made. He looks very, very good and would potentially be my pick out of the 2. But then you've got Cam McKenzie, who is Sandy Dragons. He wants to play, well, he says that he'd like to play at St Kilda because obviously he lives in the area and he's got some connections there already, so that could be good. But Philippou is keen to play interstate. He's not too worried about travelling, which is something that he said, but it's always a bit of a worry in a year or two whether he changes his mind. But he looks a very, very good player, and he could definitely play round 1 next year. McKenzie potentially as well. So if they're both available at our pick, I don't think you can lose. Both of them look very, very good, and both of them should develop into pretty decent AFL players, you'd like to think. So that's the big news on the AFL front in terms of the draft at the moment. Obviously, I'll cover that in a bit more detail in the next couple of weeks leading up to the draft, which will be at the end of November, I believe. For some question time, this is a quick one because although, we had some big news last week, big announcements, there wasn't a lot of news. No AFLW, no obviously AFL, so hopefully in the next couple of weeks with the draft, we'll get a bit more news. This one's from Liam. He's asking 2023 fixture predictions for our round 1 opponent and double up opponents. Well, funnily enough, you mentioned round 1. I saw the Zero Hanger predicted the round 1 fixture for next year, and they've got us playing Geelong at GMHPA, 7:40 on a Saturday night, March 18. So that would be absolute. I can't see us playing the Premiers at home. Like, surely they put Geelong up against a big team, or they go for a grand final replay and put Geelong and Sydney at GMHBA or something. And I feel like that's a weird start to the season for us. I wouldn't like it personally. It's always good to start at Marvel against an easy opponent, but we'll take what we get. And in terms of double ups, hopefully no one from this year, because we had a bit of a stiff draw in the second half of the year. So if we can get a double up against like an Essendon, maybe we've got Hawthorn double up this year, even a Western Bulldogs double up, North Melbourne, get a couple of those lower teams would be good. And in terms of the top teams, if we have to go double ups, I'd happily go a double up against Collingwood. Even maybe a Fremantle would be good home and away. So, I think the fixture's likely to come out towards December, so they've got a bit more time to brainstorm it. But I feel like Ross Lyon being back, history against Geelong, they could well do the Geelong game, but we'll find out in the next couple of months. This one's from Jez. He mentions Matthias Philippou looks like a jet. Saints should take him if available. He is said to be happy to travel interstate and play for an interstate club. As I mentioned, he looks like a gun. I would not be disappointed if we had Matthias Philippou as a Saint. Absolutely not. And he says, when are we going to hear from Brett Ratton? I've been away from work. Sorry if that's already been discussed. Well, it hasn't been discussed, mate, so no problem. Probably not for a while. I think Rats has handled this really, really well, and I don't think it would have been right for him to come out and talk about it anytime soon, and I think the media's been actually surprisingly really good, and from what from the outside perspective, it doesn't look like they've been trying to get him to come on the radio or talk about it or anything. He may well go into like a commentary perspective, or he's in the works. He's too busy, sorting out a new job. He could well go to Hawthorn. I think I've heard Robert Harvey did leave Hawthorn as an assistant coach, so there is a position there available. So it'd be kind of nice that we took Harvey and then we, obviously opened up a position for Rats to go to Hawthorn. Hopefully he gets to a club because he's too good to not be a coach of some capacity. And this one's from Just Sammy. Who should we target that has been delisted? A few people have mentioned Sydney Stack. A few people have mentioned Stocker. And the one that I'm kind of curious about is Quinton Narkle from Geelong. I've been a big fan of him. He's shown a bit when he's played against us, but unfortunately hasn't played, hasn't put together a full season of form. But he's shown that he's got something. He's got a bit of X factor, a bit of pace. He can go forward and kick a goal, and he can go into the midfield. He's big enough to go into the midfield. So I wouldn't mind getting Quinton Narkle from the Cats. That'd be really exciting. Sydney Stack, maybe similar to Quinton Narkle, shows a couple of highlights every now and then, but doesn't do it consistently. I'd probably still take Narkle over Stack. And Stocker, not really a massive fan. I don't think he fits a need. He'd just be another sort of depth player for us, I think. I don't think he improves us too much, but yeah, curious to see what we do. I think the window is it open for the next week or so. So we've been pretty quiet on that front. Last week it opened up. We didn't really do anything, so maybe this week we'll get something done. So Quinton Narkle would be my pick. That's it, guys. That is Saints TV Weekly. A bit of a short one, although it's still 12 minutes, so I try to keep them short, but they still blow out to 12, 13 minutes. But hopefully you enjoyed it nonetheless. If you did, please like the video. Please comment your thoughts. If there's any other news you want me to talk about or you want to flag in the comments, please put them in the comments. And most importantly, please subscribe. We've just hit over 4,500 subs. That means we've got under 500 to go until we hit 5,000. Let's get that done before round one next year. Would be amazing. Before 2023 would be even better. In the next month or two would be unreal. So if you're watching this and you enjoy it, you're a Sainer or you're not, please like the video, please comment, and most importantly, subscribe. But until then, Sainers, enjoy the rest of your week, and I'll see you in my next video on the Saints TV YouTube channel. But until then, take care, and as always, go you mighty Sainers. See you guys.